Grand rising to you all. I'm Britt,
And I'm Heidi.
and this is Mothers of Maine. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got some beautiful ladies with us. We have Miss Katie and Miss Carla. Carla's from Franklin, and Katie's from Steuben. They both sit on the RSU24 School Board. Carla joined this March 29th, 2025, and Katie was elected last March, 2024. So, ladies, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. We also have Betsy Grant, a parent from and business owner from the Hancock County area, here for supplemental questions and information. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Carla, do you have anything that you'd like to start with? Good morning.
Well, definitely. Good morning to you, ladies, and thank you for giving a platform for people to speak and talk. And I think as a society, it's helpful for us to understand each other and to hear each other and give each other space to express what our thoughts are and what our feelings are, and to discuss the law as well in regards to school boards and what our authority is.
Love it. Love it. There's
Thank
so
you.
many right now who are looking for people like you, like this platform, to be able to use their voice. So thank you for bringing that to light. And Miss Katie, do you have anything you'd like to start with?
Yeah, I would just kind of like to echo the same thing as Carla. I'm really glad that you guys have this platform for moms and, well, really for anybody, but especially for moms in these times. Um, I feel like it's very important for us to, rally together and share our voices and our concerns and have respectful, thoughtful conversations on all kinds of different things.
Definitely. Definitely.
For sure. Thank you both.
Respectful being such a key word.
Yes, very much
Yeah.
so.
Yes, most definitely.
That's something that we're missing hugely during this time, is just that healthy discourse among ourselves to find that middle ground together.
Most definitely.
Okay, so Miss Carla, I wanted to ask you, how old are your kids, and where and how long? Well, I guess we know how long you've been on the board, not very long. So yeah, we'll start with how old your kids are.
So my kids are in elementary school. One is in third grade, the other one is in eighth grade. And I do have an older son who lives out of state, and he's 29, and he is a former military member, and he's retired military. So I have three total, two boys and one little girl. And yeah, two of them are here in Maine with me, and they attend the RSU24 schools in our district.
And
What branch of military did your son serve?
He served in the Army.
Thank you for your service.
thank you so much for your.
I know for parents, it's just as much of an enlistment as it is for this child.
Yep.
So I understand you homeschooled for a bit, and then you put your kids back into public school. I'm wondering what that transition was like.
Well, it was an in and out type of scenario, in that where I used to live before I moved back to Maine, I homeschooled my second child from kindergarten through first grade. And when we decided to move back to California, I'm sorry, when we moved back from California to Maine, I actually put him into the public school system here in Maine, because my public school education here in Maine, I felt, was actually a very good education. I grew up in southern Maine, so I felt comfortable being a stay-at-home mom at that time, taking some time off from my trade. I decided I want to stay home with my little girl. She was only 2 at the time that we moved back, and I would have my son go to school close by. So he went to second and third grade in public school here in Maine until 2020 hit, when things kind of came crashing down. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much when I decided to pull him from public school once again, due to the policies and procedures that the Mills administration and the Maine Department of Education in our district, policies that they had put in place that just didn't match. It didn't work with kids. And so I decided to homeschool him for fourth and fifth grade. And subsequently, at the same time, my daughter was becoming of age. I homeschooled her for pre-K and kindergarten.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm looking at homeschooling, so I'll definitely pick your brain on that more a little later. Um, how has the transition from homeschool back to public school been?
Well, it's both positive and negative. I ended up, both of my kids said, we want to go back to, we want to go to school.
Yeah.
We have friends and we want to have that experience. So, my daughter entered into first grade, and the school that she's at now, she's been there for second and third, and she's had a great time. All
Mhm.
positive experiences, wonderful teachers. I
Yeah.
love our school. Our school is awesome. I love the administration there. She's had a positive experience and she has blossomed. So that is wonderful. My son, on the other hand, had a little bit different of an experience in that he went from fourth and fifth grade being homeschooled to now
Mhm.
going into sixth grade at our district's sixth through 12th grade school, which is
Mhm.
Sumner
Yeah.
Learning Campus. And the first year for him in sixth grade in a brand new school was not a positive experience at all. It was very challenging for him. So at the end of that sixth grade year, I said, well, I'm going to leave it in the ball in your court and I'm going to let you decide. Do you want to try again for seventh grade or do you want to go back to homeschool? And he said, I want to go back to homeschool. I don't like what is happening in this school. I don't feel safe.
Mhm.
So at that point, I discussed it with my husband, and I said, this is kind of where we're at. Faith, my daughter, is fine with where she's at, but my other child is not. So we decided to homeschool him for seventh grade, which was last year. And so we had a great experience together. We've utilized co-ops in and around our area, and we have a big homeschooling family of a network of people and parents that are very interested in making sure that their child's education is the best. And sometimes public school, I think just depending on administration and teachers and principals that are in place, can really make a big difference and an impact in how the school is ran and in what type of environment your child is going to be in. So after some changes and some things at our district that kind of made me decide, well, maybe it's, time for my son to make another choice. Do you want to go back to homeschool for eighth grade? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? And he said, I want to try it again. So he's actually back in public school for the entire year for eighth grade. Things have been positive. I would say about 90% positivity. Now he's also a teenager. So you've got some complaining going on, like with any teenager. So I think things have gone in the right direction in our district. I see some changes that have been made that are positive. So I would say overall, things are moving in the right direction. There's still a lot of things to be improved upon, but
Mhm.
I'm happy and I'm excited, and I'd really like to help our district move forward in making it a destination for other families, including homeschool families and families that might have sent their kids out of our district. I'd like to try to, make it so that way they feel comfortable sending their child back to our schools in our district.
Love it. That's so encouraging to hear because I really hope that the whole system can do a 180 and be what it
Right.
should be for our children.
So
Heidi, yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say that I really love you sharing your experiences that you've traversed, because it really shows what kind of perspective that you have sitting on the school board. You've been a concerned parent. You've tried alternative education methods, and you in turn have decided to invest your time back into the education system. And so, thank you for a glimpse into that. Thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely.
Miss Katie, we would love to hear about you and your how old your kiddos are, and how you came to be on the school board.
So my youngest is 18 months and my oldest is 4, and we actually registered for kindergarten yesterday, and it's within the RSU. I'm not thinking about it too much, so I'm not super emotional yet.
Big move, Mama. We feel you.
There.
So, as you can guess, because I registered her for kindergarten, she's a 2020 baby. I've spent so I'm actually an occupational therapist. So that's part of the reason that I ran for school board. Also, I have cousins, nieces, nephews, a lot of kids from my family that are in different schools within the RSU, and I was a very vocal constituent during COVID and the choices that our school board was making during COVID. I went to a lot of the school board meetings back then about that. And I felt like we weren't really being heard. And so that kind of planted the seed with me that, maybe I needed to find somebody from our town that would represent us differently. And I actually very much like the person that was the seat before us. I just didn't like the way that he was voting.
Okay.
And my sister and I kind of sat down and talked about it. And I talked about it with my parents, and we talked about it with a lot of people that we knew that we thought, oh, maybe. And then, I said, why am I looking for somebody else to do this? Like, I should do it. I'm the one that has all of these different worries, and nobody else is going to do it like I am, so maybe I should do it when the seat comes up. And then we had a couple of other hot button issues that happened on school board. I attended those meetings, wasn't super thrilled with the way they turned out. So I said, I'll be running for that seat next time it comes up. He had just gotten in, so it was about 3 years. And lo and behold, I found myself actually freshly postpartum when I had to run that race. So I had my daughter in November, and I was home for just a few days. And I went and took my papers out and got my signatures and got them turned in so that I could be on the ballot in March. So it was a little bit of a bumpy ride getting it all figured out, and trying to find somebody that could have my brand new baby while I went and did all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of how I got there. But I came at it from also a perspective of I'm seeing a lot of the things that we're pushing are not developmentally appropriate. And that's just kind of, it's not just our school system, it's a lot of school systems. They're expecting more, and the way that they're expecting these kids to learn is, it's not appropriate.
Exactly.
It's really hard for me to, as an OT, seeing all of these things and knowing that there are better ways to approach it. And, there's a variety of things. Just looking at the amount of technology in the classroom, it's not appropriate for little kids to be sitting on a laptop for an extended period of time. They need to play. That's how they learn. That's the best way for kids to learn. As an occupational therapist, play is the occupation of how they develop, and that's how they make those neural connections. And the more that we look at that, the better that they will learn and the better they'll perform. So that and many other reasons are why I decided that, I really wanted to get on the school board to make some changes and hopefully turn our district around. And that's, another thing that I thought may attract the homeschool population back to our school district, is that we should be doing it developmentally appropriate, because a lot of the homeschool population area are seeing that, that's what kids need. So am I allowed to shout out some homeschool co-ops? Because I know
Yes. Yes, you are.
Alliance, they do a wonderful job
Can you
on down here.
say it again?
Down East Educational Alliance.
Okay.
I've seen them do some really awesome things. They had somebody come and they built a wood burning kiln, and they made clay with the kids, and they made pottery on the beach. And then
so
they
cool.
was during high tide was coming in, the kids were making all of these canals to kind of make it so the water wouldn't get to their kiln, and they were just learning so many different things, and their bodies were active and their brains were engaged. So, you know, those are the kind of opportunities that I think really make kids love to learn and make them
Mhm.
want to learn, and I think that's important.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. I'm just going to touch on that, Katie. I'm a consciousness mentor, and I feel like so much of this really can just be boiled down to different levels of experiences right now. And I feel like you do that if we can just discuss and find that platform to open up those lines of communication, that we can see some of those dividing factors disappear. And so I love that you're coming from the occupational therapy background, and I'm coming from a therapist background, and I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for letting us hear about how you came into this. Thank you.
You for giving me a platform.
If
um,
anybody's gonna know the science of all of this, it'll be Katie.
yeah.
And it sounds like you saw something that you didn't like, and instead of saying, "Hey, I don't like this," you got up and you're doing something about it. And I admire and respect that so much about you.
Thank you.
And also, Carla, would you say that is the same for you? You saw things that you didn't like, so you said, "I'm going to do something about it."
Yeah, for the most part, it was the person that had that seat here in Franklin for 12 years. I went back into our school district's agendas and minutes, and I reviewed 5 years of voting. And it took me days, of course, but I basically was told by someone else, hey, is anyone going to run for this seat? Nobody's stepping up to the plate. And I said to myself, you know, I look to the right, I look to the left, nobody else is going to run. Are we really going to allow this person to have this seat again for another 3 years when the voting record shows that this person does not vote how I would vote in ever, zero? So standing in that position, it was vital that he had to be taken out of that seat. And that's why I ran, because the decisions that the board had been making were just contradicting everything that I was trying to do for my kids. And I thought, you know, as I'm homeschooling my kids, I have parents in our district coming up to me saying, I wish I could homeschool my kids. I wish I could get them out of that school. I don't agree with these things that are occurring. And so years had gone by, and it just I'm reminiscing about how so many parents said they wish they could have done what I did. And so I said to myself, it's time. It's time for change. And it was time to just expose the voting record, because people are policy. And I never once attacked this particular person for who he is, because I don't know him well enough to
Mhm.
say anything positive or negative. I just know how he voted, and people are policy. So I went after his policy, and I showed the voters in my town, this is what he has voted for. This is what he stands for. This is who I am, and this is what I stand for. So I'm a parent. This other person is not a parent. He's been on the school board for 12 years. It's time for change. And the people that came out to vote, the people of Franklin spoke, and I was elected on March 28th.
Thank you so much. It's a great encouraging story to anybody who's not happy with their school district. You know, so many of the school districts are getting a ton of backlash right now, and we love teachers. Mothers of Maine loves teachers, and we love to see women who, instead of complaining, take that power and turn it into leadership. And really proud of you, sisters. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Superwoman's in the house.
I love it.
So I guess to piggyback off all of that, how did you decide to invest your time into the school board versus homeschooling? I know that might have gotten a little easy because your children decided to go back to public school, but ultimately, what was that jump for you? For other parents who are considering, geez, it's a little bit more time than I have right now to invest in something, but we know it's important, because if you want to see the votes you want voted on the way you would vote, then you should probably get in there yourself.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, and just, research the policies, because school boards
Mhm.
are we are tasked. It is a Maine law. The Maine state law is that school boards write policy. And
Mhm.
as long as we are staying within the realm of the law and what is right, and there is some miscommunication right now in between what the federal version of Title IX is versus what the Maine Human Rights Act is. So we're kind of in a delicate balance right now in interpreting the law. Um, but I think for me it was easy because both of my children are now back in public school since last year of September of 24. So in running my own business, I do have a lot of spare time now that I didn't have before. And so a lot of it was just, how am I going to utilize my time
Yeah.
correctly? How am I going to capitalize on the time that I have when my kids are in school? And I had actually asked, I'd requested some prayer from a friend of mine who is a homeschool mom. And I said, my business is shut down for winter. And I said, I've got some time on my hands and I'm not sure where God is pointing me. Like, can you just pray for me? Can you just pray that whatever I'm supposed to be doing is God's will? And that's honestly where it kind of like clicked, in that I had asked for a prayer from someone else and I said, just pray for me because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. My business is closed. It doesn't open up again for a few more months. And am I supposed to be volunteering? Am I supposed to be helping? Where am I supposed to go?
Right.
And here it was. It landed in my lap. Literally, it just said, God said, you know what? Here it is. This is what's landing in your lap. You are the person. And I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but I just had to run the race. And I knew God already had a plan. So I just had to say,
Yeah.
you know what, God, I'm just going to trust you and I'm just going to go. I'm just going to run. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So God put it on my heart.
Love it. You answered the call.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
you kind of led us into our next question. What update did your school policy experience regarding Title IX?
So, Katie could probably answer this as well as I could, and I'll just
Yeah.
kind of, you know, put it in a simple way. Maybe Katie could expound on it a little bit, but there's not a real big update. Um, the policy itself that was written and adopted in 2019 took out the most important part of the child's the equation of when a child is educated, and it was parents. The parents
Mhm.
were being removed from their child's education records, and that is falls under the FERPA law. And so when I was voted in, I took the place of the person that sat in that seat before me, and he sat on the policy committee. So when this came up, I did a lot of research, spent many hours reviewing lots of legal briefs and legal opinion, and I brought it up in the committee meeting, and I said, this policy, it goes against the very foundation of what our mission statement is on our website, is that parents are the stakeholders, but yet this policy literally takes the parent out of the equation. How is that how are parents going to be a stakeholder in their child's education if you are telling administrators and teachers in our district that it's okay to leave the parent out? So the FERPA law, it was actually for people that aren't aware, Congress passed the FERPA law in 1974 to protect children's privacy in the manner that ensures parents can access their children's school records to gain
Mhm.
information and so on and so forth. So that is Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And until that child reaches 18, or the judge decides that parents' rights have been terminated by,
Mhm.
by a court, you have the right to your child's education records, hands down, full stop, no secrets. And then there was another violation in that policy that I thought, again, Supreme Courts have ruled on this for probably 50 to 60 years, if not longer. You cannot compel someone else's speech. If someone would like to say to a student, regardless of whatever name it is, if it's a biological name change or whatever, you cannot compel someone's speech to call you a boy if you're a girl and vice versa. So if a
Mhm.
child wants to go by a different pronoun or a different name, that's actually in the First Amendment, that's the teacher's decision and choice to make. It is not to be pushed upon a teacher or anyone else in society that we call someone something that fundamentally goes against our religious beliefs. So
Mhm.
that alone, plus the FERPA violation, is what I brought up in the policy committee, that this policy is breaking the law right now. So you are being subjected to being liable. If a parent knew their rights, and if we shine the light on what's wrong in this policy, there should be no reason why anyone would not want to have us remove it. So I'll let Katie expound on that a little bit again, because she works in special education, so she knows how important it is for parents to know what's going on with their children.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
That
you.
Yeah.
was actually, so our policy was titled Policy JB, and it was just titled Transgender and Gender Expansive Students. Basically, the policy had definitions of what those things meant, gender identity, all of that. And then the part that Carla is talking about was under Section C and Section D of our policy. It basically stated that if the child wanted to be identified as a different gender or a different identity at school, then it was up to the child to tell the school whether they could share that information with their parents. And there was no requirement of a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. There was no, it was completely up to the student. As somebody that works in special education, I was like, that's completely wrong.
Yeah.
If we have a child that is struggling with their grades, or if we have a child that is struggling with behavior, we
Right.
don't withhold that information from parents. And we should not be in the business of keeping any secrets from parents about their child, because one, who does that help? That helps no one. And, we're making it so the family can't have a conversation about these things. And there's a lot of things in my personal life. So actually, my best friend growing up, she was the first out student in the RSU,
Mhm.
pretty publicly, and we've been best friends since we were 4. And when she came out to her parents, it was not an easy thing to do, and there was a lot of animosity, and they had a lot of conversations, but her and her parents are very close now, despite having such a difficult time with her coming out to them.
Right.
I don't think it's the school's place to make it so families can't have a discussion with their child about their identity. Is there anything larger than your identity? And that I actually had an experience just recently. My niece got pulled into the office. She's in 2nd grade, so our policy covered pre-K through 12th grade. There was no age limit on this policy, and she had gotten into a disagreement with another student, so it was a behavioral call, and the principal had asked her, which parent would you like me to contact about this? And she goes, oh, you don't have to contact them. She said, we had the discussion right now. I'm fine. You don't have to tell them. And, the principal was like, no, I do actually have to tell them. So this is a real life example, under this
Mhm.
policy. If this had been about her identity and she was struggling with that, she would have had to say, okay, I won't tell your parents. And that doesn't sit right with me. As somebody that works in special education, your parents are your biggest advocate. And if they are withheld information, they can't advocate for you.
That's
And
right.
um, and then the other piece of that is, where was I going here? I lost my train of thought. There's just so many aspects to it.
It-
Uh,
yeah.
you know, you just can't, we shouldn't be, oh, the mother piece. I'm not okay with my child having secrets with another adult that
Yeah.
exclude me. That
Yeah.
is a bad precedent to set,
Grooming.
no matter what you believe or how you believe. I think most parents would agree. I don't want my child having secrets with an adult that can lead to victimization, period. And setting that precedent can send them down that road. And I'm not okay with that.
Betsy,
It's already.
can we let Betsy comment on that?
Yep.
Quick?
Just as a mother, when she said it that way, it really brought the mama bear out when, yeah, no adult should even overstep and think that they could have secrets with anyone's child. And that is grooming in the very beginning parts right there, is teaching kids to have secrets.
Starting in kindergarten, by the way.
Starting in childcare.
Right.
It's already a problem on its own when they become teenagers. We don't need adults encouraging that behavior from kindergarten.
Right. I mean, it's learned behavior. I mean, and teachers are in a position of trust. So if that's the way they're teaching children at a young age, well, they're learning that from an authority position. So it must be right, and that's just no. There's
Yeah.
so many things wrong with that.
And I've had a lot of people say, well, it's like you're blaming them and thinking that they are grooming these children. And I said, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be about that, but it's the precedent that you're setting. That's the truth of the matter, and I have, we don't force, I don't force my children to hug people they don't want to hug, because I don't want to set the precedent that if you're uncomfortable and later down on the road, you're just trying to be polite to somebody and you put yourself in a position that you can be victimized because you're trying to be polite over comfort. Like, I can't get my head around it, and I can't set that precedent for my children, and I don't expect to set it for anybody else's children either.
Yes.
Policy should be followed with a moral compass. And that's the big part that's missing for a lot of people, but sounds like all of us ladies here have. So it kind of sets you down this different path, but there's more that are ready to follow.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Where are we at with our questions, Brett?
I guess I would just like to know, what has the response been like since the update in the policy, or since it's been brought up?
Well, I'll speak to that and then I'll maybe have Katie chime in. So far, it's been pretty positive. I would state that a lot of parents and people in our community are very happy with the policy being taken out. There, of course, has been some backlash, some very negative backlash, which is understandable. We're not really in the business of trying to placate everyone. We're just trying to do the right thing for parents and for students. So there's going to be some negativity, and we were expecting that. I would just kind of push back on some of the negativity that comes out, saying that we hate people, and I don't think that is any part of any fiber of our being. I would just speak for myself and saying I don't hate anyone. I feel actually a lot of sadness for people who have these type of medical conditions, regardless of whatever they feel in their body, to feel that they don't belong in the body that was given to them is very sad.
Yeah.
So I just pray for them, and I just hope that people understand that we don't hate. We're trying to protect children, all children, not just a certain class or a certain group. All children deserve protection, and all children deserve that their parents be involved with their education, and to know that, parents just need to understand that on the school board, we're parents also, and we're just trying to do our best for our district. I can't speak for the whole board, but I can speak on behalf of myself. We're just trying to help all students, not just a small portion of students.
Exactly.
It's the opposite of hate. It's so much love for these
Right.
children, all
Right.
the children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That we're willing to get our names dragged through the mud as awful people to protect them all. That's I 100% agree. I feel like it's been mostly positive feedback that I've received. There's been a few people that they like to say that our decision was rooted in hate. And again, I speak for myself, saying that as a parent, I'm trying to set a precedent that we protect these kids no matter what, and we include their family, because your family is your biggest advocate. And time again, I've seen that in special education, that parents are the best advocate for their kids. You know, and I really want them involved. I want them to feel a part of the community, a part of the school community, and they need to have a voice in the conversation.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. I just want to point out that we're just a group of strong women who have traversed a certain amount of life experiences and just done enough mindfulness to decide that it was best that we put our energy back into the system and making clear perhaps some areas that we've traversed and have some insight into. And we implore other women to do the same. And Carla and Katie, Betsy owns a childcare center in Hancock County, and so she's been influencing the little ones in your area for the past 20 years and doing great works. And we know it starts with good childcare centers. And I just want to give a shout out to Betsy. Thank you for all you do. We are so grateful. And thank you so much to Carla and Katie. We are so grateful for strong women leaders in the state.
Amen
Yeah.
to all of that.
Thank you for reaching out to us to hear, kind of our side, because again, just open lines of communication and understanding where we're coming from as parents, it definitely helps to keep things in the light, just so that people understand that we don't hate anybody, and we just want to make sure everyone is protected.
Yeah. This comes from a grand place of love, a love for all. Having traversed these experiences, we were coming back with this energy, and it's out of a place of love for all of us.
Absolutely.
And despite what ship you are on, we are the lighthouses shining the light in the storm for you to find your way back in. So, and we'll do it, right, ladies?
Yeah.
We'll do our best.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time and space today. And I'd love to have you guys back next month just for a recap for everything that's going on in RSU24. We're proud of you. Keep battling and keep speaking for the women in the state.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless.
you. God bless.
God bless you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.